Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Cynthia Radicke, Assistant Dean for Advancement at Taubman College of Architecture and Urban Planning. I'm delighted to bring you this great conversation today to show you the creative ways that Taubman College faculty and students have developed new strategies to persist through and extend beyond this unusual time. I think you'll enjoy the innovative approaches and new ideas that may change the way we live and work for the better. But first, I'd like to introduce our alumni host for today, Anthony Moselli. Anthony is a proud alumnus of the Taubman College and is currently Senior Vice President of Related Companies in New York City. Among many large-scale influential designs in his architecture career, Anthony served as Managing Principal for Hudson Yards in New York City and the Newman Vertical Campus of Baruch College. Anthony has played a vital volunteer role for the University of Michigan over the years, serving on the Taubman College Victors for Michigan Campaign Committee, the Tri-State Campaign Leadership Council, and he currently serves on the Taubman College Dean's Advisory Board. Anthony Moselli, thank you for joining us today.
Hold on, I'm having a little technical thing here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you, Cynthia. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you all for joining today. I was asked to reflect a bit on the influence that my attending the University of Michigan and Taubman College has had on my career in architecture and my new stage of my career as a developer or working on the development side. And one of my favorite quotes of 2020 is Governor Andrew Cuomo from New York recycling one of Winston Churchill's quotes from 1942, where he said, "This is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning." And in the 30 some odd years since I left the college, I've really come to see my time at Taubman as the beginning, and really graduating was the end of the beginning. And one of the things that has really stuck with me, and I didn't feel this right away. It takes a period of time to come through as you begin your career and work through your career. But I feel a little bit less compelled to say, well, I love this professor, I love this studio, or I love this class. But what I do feel is a real strong culture that was permeated in our education, and it's the culture of designing places and spaces in a civic-minded way, that we're doing more than focusing on design for design's sakes. And I really believe in the importance of design as compared to the self-importance of being a designer. And I think we have a higher calling and a higher purpose as we try to improve our cities, especially in times like we live in today. So that's what I take away from the University of Michigan. And I hope that you all will have equally great experiences, and in 30 years or so, equally great feelings about your time there. I'd also like to take just a second, if I could, and introduce Dean Jonathan Massey. I've really come to know Jonathan and respect him tremendously. And I think one of the things that has really impressed me the most about Jonathan is his leadership. When I was a partner at KPF, our founder, Gene Cohn, used to say to me, you know, Anthony, there are two types of leaders in the world and in the profession: those who put their hands on other people's shoulders and push themselves up, and those who take people by the arm and lift others up. And I think Jonathan has that kind of sure-handed, respectful, quiet, shine the light on other people type of leadership, which is incredibly lacking in the world today, and certainly in the United States. So I'm very proud to introduce Jonathan, somebody who I respect gratefully, appreciate gratefully, and admire very much, and admire. And Jonathan, take it away.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I really appreciate that generous introduction. That's certainly a mode of leadership to aspire to. And if there's one thing that we've learned at Taubman College and at the university, and I think most of you joining today have experienced this, I hope, in your families and communities and institutions and the companies, places where you're working, it's that it's that the pressure of having to adapt so much so quickly has really forced new levels of coordination and integration across students, staff, and faculty at Taubman College. And it's been inspiring to be part of that, even though the circumstances are not the ideal ones. And I've really appreciated, Anthony, getting to know you as well and your counsel and input through the Dean's Advisory Board. I should also note, for those who are just meeting Anthony for the first time, that his son, Andrew Moselli, has done some amazing things on campus as a co-leader of the real estate club that gathers students from all across campus to advance the cause of learning about real estate as a key component in making places, the art that Anthony talked about. So with that said, I'm excited to talk to you today. Come with me on a journey into academic innovation work at Taubman College.
Hello, and welcome to this Victors, Heroes, Wolverines webinar on new strategies and spaces in and beyond the coronavirus pandemic. It's a privilege to share with you some of the ways that faculty, staff, and especially students at the Taubman College of Architecture and Urban Planning have reinvented teaching and learning to achieve really high levels of excellence during a year of remote and hybrid instruction of a kind that we've never encountered before. So I'm standing here in the third floor architecture studio of Taubman College in order to dramatize for you the extent to which, prior to the pandemic, at Taubman College, we really prioritized the benefits of teaching and learning in our building in a tightly knit face-to-face community. This was especially true in the design studio, which has always been a hub for creative activity, centered on both digital and physical making, like the model making that you see around me on these desks, as well as collaborative peer-to-peer learning. So, as you can imagine, once we understood the pandemic, we knew that we could not continue to use the design studio or even our classrooms in quite the same way that we're used to. And so one of the first orders of business at Taubman College, starting back in May, right after graduation, was to rethink how we use our building for teaching and learning. And our first step was to enlist students and partner with them to organize competitions that invited students to develop their thinking and some design responses that might be applicable to the work that we do together in our very own building. One of the winning entries, which I'm standing in now, reimagined the design studio, clearing out all of those desks and furnishings and creating reservable workstations and isolation pods that would let students come in and give them greater control in their learning and their work over the workspace and their risk exposures that they took on as part of completing their degrees. The most significant of our summer activities was the Longo Competition, supported by Ross alum and Taubman parent, Susan Longo, who's here with us today. In this design challenge, we expanded the frame beyond Taubman College, beyond our own building, challenging students to project alternative strategies for the campus and for the city of Ann Arbor. Among the three winners was a project that distributed academic workspace into satellite locations in residential neighborhoods to better support working from home. Another winning entry imagined big inflatable enclosures, turning quads into extra conditioned, climate controlled campus space to de-densify our existing buildings. And then this project, which proposed to turn the bus network of Ann Arbor into a learning infrastructure with Wi-Fi hubs and other resources radiating out from bus stops and also available during the transit journey of students to and from campus. These competitions served multiple goals. They helped the students keep learning and developing professional capacities at a time when we had to cancel travel-based courses and summer electives, and when many employers were pulling back on internships and jobs. At the same time, they connected students to practicing architects and planners for mentoring and helped international students fulfill their visa requirements. So they really were part of a comprehensive approach to supporting students through this very tough time. As part of this approach to creating opportunities for students, we also partnered with other academic units across campus, such as the School of Music, Theater, and Dance, on a project called Sonic Sonographies that you'll hear about later, and with partner organizations beyond campus. Some of our faculty joined together to create the Taubman College Public Design Corps, a program connecting students with pro bono internships, providing design services to community not-for-profit organizations, like the CAR Center, an African-American-led arts center in Detroit, for which some of our students created this new website. Finally, in parallel with these other projects, we spent much of the summer addressing the movement for racial justice. And here too, our students stepped up to show the way. Inspired by national advocacy groups, a cohort of primarily BIPOC students articulated 12 design justice actions that Taubman College should take to advance the cause of racial equity within our college and within our professions. This has generated another set of collaborations as we work together toward these goals. For instance, through a syllabus initiative that brings students together with faculty to review our course content and to redesign it to feature the accomplishments and the issues of greatest importance to African-American communities and other constituencies who've not been fully represented in our teaching. Joining me to develop further this narrative of the transformations in teaching and learning at Taubman College over the past 9 months are two colleagues who've really been key figures in moving us forward. Anya Sirota is an associate professor of architecture whose practice works in urban design and social impact design at scales ranging from small scale installations to building projects with community organizations and not-for-profits to Detroit's most significant urban design project, the Midtown Cultural Center Plan, encompassing the Detroit Institute of Arts and other key institutions. Anya is also our Associate Dean for Academic Initiatives and Innovation in Teaching and Learning. With her is Ishan Pal Singh, who just completed his Master of Architecture degree in May. Ishan distinguished himself academically and in leadership as co-chair of one of our main student government groups. So after he graduated, Anya recruited Ishan to join the academic innovation team, bringing his creative intelligence and deep understanding of our students and our learning culture to the work. Anya and Ishan are going to share some highlights of these new approaches organized according to 3 main themes: co-design, or collaboration between students, faculty, and staff in reinventing what we do, adapting new media for remote collaboration, and finally, empathetic design, design that prioritizes the experience, feelings, and preferences of our students.
Thank you, Jonathan, for that generous introduction and for including us in this conversation around the legendary pivot that we experienced last winter. I wanted to also draw attention to the fact that Ishan is coordinating, DJing, and creating this event. He's mixing things live, and it's an effort for us to illustrate the kinds of techniques that we've deployed to create a more empathetic, responsive, and engaging online experience for students and faculty this last semester. So he might sometimes, there might be a little glitch, or he might be speaking a little less, but that's because he's doing his magic in the background. So as Dean Massey mentioned, last winter, we were faced with an unprecedented task of responding to a massive move online to learning for a temporary and yet undefined period. And we were confronted with challenges and anxieties of translating what we are good at Taubman College, which is creating individualized, immersive, embodied learning experiences. And we had to suddenly translate those to the digital world. How to replicate studio experience with all of its serendipitous social encounters and its kind of informal transfer of knowledge was a real challenge, obviously. We also had to confront our students' sense of loss, lost internships, rescheduled travel opportunities, canceled courses. And we had to reinvent and strategize what resilient teaching would look like, to create new opportunities for our students, and to retain our culture as a community and a place. And we needed to figure out new ways to work together across disciplines to reimagine a more equitable future, which is something our students were keenly interested in inflecting. So today we're very happy to share our strategies, methods, and discoveries, and to talk together between Ishan, myself, and you as much as possible to unpack what these experiences have taught us and how we think they might inflect teaching in the future.
Yeah, and talking about addressing the sense of loss. I mean, I was one of those students that had plans of like after graduation, I had a firm that I was supposed to be working at, and ever since the pivot, all my plans obviously had to change. Offers for a lot of me and my friends were rescinded, and I think I just wanted to find a way that I could still be of use during this time. And I was obviously looking for a job, but at the same time, I wanted to tackle this problem creatively. And I had seen, like, right when we went virtual last semester, I had seen the way we had to jump into this environment, and it wasn't the best because obviously all the professors got a week to prepare for something like this. So I saw that as maybe a problem that I could help out with. And I started looking for opportunities to harness skills towards new digital realities. So I wasn't sure how to do that, but then I approached Anya, and I was ready to experiment with it.
So obviously Ishan has an unprecedented appetite for experimentation, insatiable appetite for experimentation, let's say, and has been very critical in experimenting, testing, prototyping new environments, new mediums, and ways for our students to engage a new reality that they found themselves in quite suddenly, along with our faculty. So over the course of the summer, we produced a series of programs and initiatives that ultimately gave students something to do, but simultaneously allowed us to test methodologies for teaching and learning in this new reality. 121 students were involved. 50 very generous faculty volunteered their time, and we created opportunities for students to gain NCARB credits towards their licensure. As Jonathan mentioned, international students were able to fulfill their visa requirements. Students worked on portfolio projects. And most importantly, our faculty and students were able to collaborate together intensively to create compelling, resilient teaching environments that would inflect the way we moved forward. So all of this was done on a small strategic budget. And today we're going to share some of those discoveries with you. So our first response to this online pivot was to turn to student co-authorship. It came from an understanding that our students possess unique expertise with digital tools, and that they could best inflect our collective understanding of user online experience. Now, user experience is always better, we know in design, when the user is part of the design process early on, and that's true in education as well. Which brings us to the question of why we hired Ishan to help us with this process.
So I mean, I think there's obviously a generational gap between the students and the teachers, and the way both the generations use their digital technology is also different. And I think that's what I was hired for. I was hired to bridge that gap, and not only bridge that gap, but also find a way to help students to engage with the material in a more exciting way.
Mm-hmm. So one of the first acts or the first projects that we rolled out was an RFP that was called Spatializing Digital Pedagogies. And what we did basically was invite faculty, students, and staff to work together on developing compelling online tools for studio learning and teaching. 9 projects were funded and 37 faculty, staff, and students participated in this experience, creating all sorts of responses to our current scenario. If we roll a little tape, we can get a sense of what people were working on.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, my name is Katie Newell. I'm the director of the Digital and Material Technologies program. Myself, along with Mark Meyer, Glenn Wilcox, and Ryan Craney, have put together the DMT Care Package. This package is a fabrication and computational design at-home mini lab. It consists of a 3D printer and filaments, Python-compatible Bluefruit circuit board with related service parts, and tools for measuring physical and electrical outputs. The goal of the DMT Care Package is to maintain the robust connection that the DMT provides between computational advancement and physical productions, all at an at-home scale.
Hi, I'm Tian Ng, assistant professor in architecture at Taubman College. Breaking videography, I think, is going to be instrumental for prototyping and making courses this year, given the remote learning component of teaching. So it will be easier to document work and communicate through the kind of dual perspective, whether it's for recording or for live casting. And also, hopefully, it will promote more innovative use of time-based medium for any kind of creative work.
Channel 2, Taubman Workshop Online. The idea behind the project is that to operate as a channel in the one sense as being a fictional TV channel, and another sense to think about the idea of this project as a channel of information. Our proposal is basically to put Taubman on screen. One of the things I think we noticed in the winter is that the most missing in all of our experiences is the synergies and happenstance that you find as being part of a design school. We were really taking that as a kind of problem. How could we create aspects of that in an online environment?
The discoveries made in the RFP process, along with additional evaluations of off-the-shelf media, contributed to an online resource that we designed called Care Package. The Care Package online resource was designed for faculty to be able to take home a set of tools and explore them at their own pace. Those tools included co-design, remote communication, and software tools. And it invited students to assess those strategies and tools to make sure that they worked best for their learning experience. The Care Package was accompanied by faculty workshops and one-to-one tech support and preparation sessions. And when you look at this video, that's just Ishan moving through the website itself, you'll see Ishan appearing yet again in the tutorials.
Right. I recorded some of my tutorials, but these tutorials, unlike something that you would find on YouTube, there you go, you can see that. But unlike what you would find on YouTube, it was specific to architecture education.
So yeah, and that was very important to our faculty to feel like they didn't need to become expert in all of the online tools, but they could strategically use those tools for their particular way of working and teaching. You know, what we discovered in this process is that there are quite a few similarities between the challenges faced in studio learning, in design, architecture, planning, along with the challenges faced in teaching performance. And so we began to think about how we could collaborate across our campus to find ways to work with students to create scenarios where collaboration, improvisation, engagement with audiences, communities, and multiple publics would be possible. That's how we got involved and how we developed the Sonic Sonographies project, which asked students to collaborate between the School of Theater, Music, and Dance with students from design and architecture to experiment on catalyzing collaboration online and creating performances that were intersectional between music, theater, dance, architecture, and digital space. So this was made possible through our collaboration with the School of Music, Theater, and Dance, and with support from Arts Engine. 6 projects were funded, 41 faculty, staff, and students participated in this experiment. And really what what emerged again were a set of discoveries about how co-design and interdisciplinary collaboration could happen. Ishan, what is it that we have on screen now? Can you?
Yeah, so one of the parts of the Sonic Sonography is that we created a set of 2 events. That was just the first one, both actually were to celebrate the students' work. So I'm going to just run the event now.
So what we're watching here is a trailer for an event where students will share their discoveries and their designs for the Sonic Sonographies project. And what's important about these kinds of events that occurred throughout the summer at a regular clip is that they offered programs for students to be involved with online, and they sustained the culture of place where little other outward focused activity was available to our students. As Dean Massey mentioned, over the course of the summer, we rolled out 4 competitions to give our students who found themselves underemployed and stressed about the realities of the pandemic to develop their studio projects, to learn how to collaborate online, to engage new platforms, but ultimately to also have a sense of agency and expression in response to a moment of collective anxiety. So the competitions asked students to address the pandemic reality and then to project or speculate about possible futures after the pandemic. We asked students to consider designs at the scale of the body, the classroom, and the campus most broadly. The Longo Competition was very ambitious for students and created some incredible outcomes. Interdisciplinary students worked in teams to consider what the space of the campus and the city might look like in the current scenario and in a post-pandemic inflected future. Studio Redux asked questions about how the pandemic inflected or the health informed and post-pandemic realities of in-residence architecture studios might look like. And this was a direct opportunity for them to imagine the space of their studio and the space of their education. The final competition, where the results will be revealed at the end of this semester, students literally designed and fabricated hazmat suits, but also shared their impressions of the current condition and the political and social implications of how they're experiencing this moment. I know that Ishan is you're working on a trailer for the event that's coming up soon. I don't know if you can share a little bit about your work in progress and hear from the students.
Yeah, sure. I can share the trailer. And also, I mean, I just want to mention these competitions were really helpful for the students because I had some of my friends who participated in these competitions. And at a time where everything was so unsure, they didn't know what to do over the summer. It kept them busy. And as you said, I think it really helped people to start, like all the students to start to transition into how do we work together while being in their homes, separated by miles and miles. So I think what you're seeing on the screen right now is part of the Hazmat competition, and let's hear from some of the students.
Yeah.
Architects can be good dreamers in times when hope seems fleeting and times get hard to the point where there aren't any easy options. And sometimes dreams come in and can be the light in that moment for a shift in perspective.
I think that even in normal circumstances, architecture is so important in the way that we interact with the world and the way we interact with each other. And especially in these times, I think it's important for us to be aware of our role as designers and the things that we do, because we have a huge responsibility to the public, to keep the public safe and to bring awareness and to make things beautiful as well.
I think design in times of collective anxiety has the opportunity to allow people to express feelings, emotions that a lot of times people maybe don't know how to express or don't have the words to say it. I think design leverages you the opportunity to be able to speak through the work that you're producing.
It's definitely a unique approach at understanding architecture. So I thought I would kind of understand the body in order to design a building, and this would be a nice little opportunity to do so.
So this type of exuberant experimentation requires new tools that contrast the sense of disembodiment and apathy delivered through the ubiquitous Zoom grid. Ishan, maybe you can share with us a little bit about the types of tools that you've deployed over this course of the semester to create new digital experiences.
Sure. So what we see right now on the screen is Twitch. It's a live streaming platform mostly used for gamers, and it honestly it made sense the minute our entire course was digital. It just made sense to adapt a live streaming tool into our course. And what we started experimenting with was with one of our lecturers courses called architecture representation, which you'll see right now.
So you're rolling a sample lecture that invited a guest interlocutor, Farzan Lofty Jam, to talk about his research and work into multimodal presentation using mapping techniques, geolocalization, and other architectural representational tools. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing on the screen?
Right. So, I mean, as you said, I think, I mean, it's quite amazing that this was this multi-nodal presentation. So if you see at the bottom left is a dash cam from the camera that Farzan is right now. He's not driving, but he's being driven in this car. On the right is actually a flight tracker because he's on his way to catch his flight. On the right of that is a live tracking tool that's tracking his car as he's on the way to the airport. And then on the right of that, that's him. Above him is our chat, and then above that are the two professors that are interviewing him, and they have live tracking tools that are scanning their faces and changing their appearances. And all of this was relevant because his entire lecture was about tracking softwares and architecture and the intersection between those two things.
So it's a kind of live demonstration using
Exactly.
contemporary media tools.
Exactly.
And
so now what we're seeing, so now what we're seeing is basically a review that we did on for student works, and this was, we are actually flying through each of these different students' works while we have reviewers on the board. And Anya, you were on this review. How was it?
First, it was a little destabilizing, but ultimately it became incredibly intriguing to interact in real time with all of the students' work simultaneously and see it really as a sequence of experiences. And it's important to note that this is the foundation studio. So this is one of the very first studios that our architecture graduate students encounter. And so they're really experimenting both with the design and the representation and the fundamental experience of space in real time, which is extraordinary.
Right. And now this lecture was a lecture by one of our other professors, and we kind of created this sonography where it's almost like a magic carpet where they're flying through, flying on it, where they're sitting on top of this carpet. And what's really amazing about this lecture was that the two professors you can see on the screen right now, they were both in their own houses while this was taking place. So it was just another way of kind of breaking the Zoom screen. And I mean, from the normal bust that we normally see on the Zoom, now we're actually seeing a top-down view, which is something that architects can relate to. And they sit around on top of the work while talking about it.
And conceptually for students, it's engaging their desire to participate in an immersive environment with their faculty, the way you would in a very active, engaged studio environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then finally we're going to see a lecture that I did, which was the team lecture, which we did in Cooper Union. And this was again 2 professors that were placed inside their work and talking about each one of their projects. And again, this is just another way of showing how like this platform can be has advantages over being there physically, where we can now start experimenting with everyone being inside their own work and being able to describe what the people are seeing in front of them.
Yeah, and it's really a phenomenological experience for our students where they can see the work in perspective, and it's actively engaging multiple modes of representation to make this as intriguing as possible in terms of an online experience. I think it's worth mentioning that this approach to creating discussions, lectures, and experiences around architectural projects and architectural production, it's very unique to Taubman College. It's something that we have tested. We've seen sometimes on occasion used for final reviews, but overall as a strategy for engagement, dissemination, and broadening of the architectural audience, it's truly unique in our discipline. And so as we connect with other faculty at peer institutions, there's a real appetite to see this kind of digital environmental design, or the design of these digital environments, permeate other institutions and begin to inflect the way we generally build audience around our design experiences.
Conclusion,
had a space called CMYK where we used to pin up in Taubman College. And we created one that's called C, I'm okay, CMOK. So this space of empathy offers students a way to connect. And when we do our final reviews, typically we have about 500 people that attend our final reviews. Last winter, we had 5,000 people attend the final reviews at Taubman College and create a really dynamic environment for students to be able to show their work and communicate with others in the profession and the academy despite it all. Thank you for taking the journey through this series of experiments, tests, and discoveries with us. These are methods that we turn to in order to transform a challenging time into an opportunity for innovation. And as we turn it over to Dean Massey, thank you also to Ishan for emceeing and being able to speak to the audience about the experience at the same time.
See you on the other side.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ishan and Anya, for walking us through so much great material. In conclusion, I wanted to note that this year has really strained everyone at the college, students, staff, and faculty alike, as well as across the University of Michigan. So we are very encouraged by the good news about vaccine progress. We are very excited about the prospect of a return next fall to the in-person life of a residential college. At the same time, I'm really inspired by the new capacities that we've developed, and I believe that we will be more effective if we carry some of them forward into the future. You probably feel the same way about your line of work and your life. For students, remote learning has brought some advantages. Zoom lectures can be recorded for reviewing later to go back over stuff that you didn't catch the first time. There's a transcription function in case you have trouble picking up what the speaker is saying or recognizing unfamiliar concepts and terms. Students are saving money and time because they're not printing large format drawings and pinning them up before every design review. And finally, they have the chance now to connect with experts and professionals all around the world with a lot more frequency than in the days when we need to fly everyone into Ann Arbor to give a talk or to review design work. So we aim to keep many of these positive features and fold them in to our in-person residential experience starting next.
Anya, Ishan, thank you so much for taking us through that incredible tour of the stuff going on. I have really enjoyed seeing the questions that folks have populated the Q&A panel with. And in particular, there are a couple of them that address the question about student uptake. What has student response been? How has this shaped engagement on the part of students? One of the big challenges, as you noted, in remote learning. And question, for instance, about whether we've been able to measure the effectiveness of particular software tools in this great landscape of methods. Obviously we're still finishing up the fall term, but what are you two seeing in terms of which of these have really caught on and been transformational for students, and which have been more marginal and around the edges?
I can take a quick stab at the assessment question because it's been incredibly interesting to us, both from a cultural level, from a cultural standpoint, but also in terms of utility. In terms of how these cultural programs have worked, we are collaborating with the School of Education to assess what impacts these experiences had on our students and whether they inflected their choices of staying in school this year or taking the year off, if they preserved a sense of culture, and if they had positive effects on mental health generally, by being able to connect more actively with other students and faculty. In terms of the tools themselves, we see certain tools rising to the top based on further testing and use in studio environments. So at this point, if at the beginning of last semester, we rolled out a series of possibilities, we're narrowing down those possibilities into the best tools possible for students and faculty to use come next semester. So the preferred toolkit is our next step.
Ishan, I think you're muted. I get to check off a bingo square for saying that.
It's funny because we're talking about new media, and I still haven't figured this out. But I think I can speak a little bit about the student response, because being a recent grad, I'm still in contact with a lot of students that are part of this digital semester. And from what we've seen is students are very engaged with these kind of lectures and these different processes, especially over the summer when we had so many different, we saw so many different events. The students never felt like they didn't have an opportunity or something that they could participate in. And we also, most of these events, we kept them things that weren't too committal, so that students could also work at the same time while they were participating in these events. And I think they've been overall really happy with the amount of stuff that's been created.
I saw another question about whether we've extended some of these academic innovation practices to other units on campus or other schools and colleges, other disciplines. I know you touched a little bit on the partnership with the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. I'm guessing it might be too soon for a lot more extension to have happened, but tell us what you're seeing on that front.
So the collaboration with the School of Theater, Music, and Dance was very positive, and we're now exploring ways to bring that program back and to transform it into a course that students could participate in again in the future, and to keep that cross-disciplinary collaboration going. Some other innovations have made their way to University of Michigan's IT department. There's been some exploration of our CMOK platform as possibly contributing to thinking around an orientation platform for the university writ large. So many of the things that we're doing, they're clearly, as you can tell from this event itself, they're in beta format. There are some glitches that still need to be worked out, but as we work on them and we build partnerships, we can definitely see the way that they might have broader impact.
One of the things I can add to that, thank you, Anya, is, for the past several months, I've been co-chairing with Tina Olson from UMA, the Museum of Art, President Schlissel's campus-wide arts initiative. And we're just in the very early kind of study and planning phases of that. So we don't have a fully developed vision yet of what that initiative will turn into. But one of the measures we took was to issue a request for proposals, much like what you guys did at Taubman College, inviting people from across campus to show us how the arts can be meaningful to research, teaching, learning, and campus life. And some of those awarded projects are in the academic innovation space as well. So there was to this question from an audience member, one of the projects that we are supporting is about reducing latency in digital transmission. So if you're trying to play music live with one or more other people, the delay of the uplink and downlink to the satellite really gets in the way. So they're testing methods of compression and technological strategies to let people play live in real time across digital platforms. And we also have sponsored a student design challenge for all students across the university in partnership with the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, that's about envisioning an anti-racist world using augmented reality and virtual reality to invite students to take us in to their vision of an anti-racist world. And I'm quite excited to see how this combination of academic and of new media and remote collaboration tackles, it activates students' imagination, much the way the hazmat suit competition invited students to engage a really terrible issue in another register. And I see there's another question about whether we're developing a form of permanent online or virtual curriculum, like the Master of Applied Digital Science at the School of Information. And the answer is very much yes. And this is another thing that the amazing Anya is leading at our college. This year, we are rolling out our very first online courses. Architecture and urban planning have not been at the forefront of moving into online learning. We've been pretty conservative disciplines on the whole around the world. And so we're launching our first 2 MOOCs, massively open online courses, that will teach some of the foundational skills of digital design that are applicable to every architecture student at Michigan and elsewhere. And the first of those launched in September, and I think we've had something like 6,000 learners signed up for that MOOC so far. And that is our first foray into fully online teaching and learning. But Anya is working with a group of faculty also to scope a graduate certificate in computational design, digital and algorithmic design practices, really stuff that we are field leaders in at Michigan. And so we're hoping a year from now to be offering this freestanding graduate certificate that students at Michigan can take, but also that through Coursera will be available to students all over the world. And I see a question that every dean and associate dean will enjoy. What does the faculty think of these innovations, especially the tenured ones? Ishan, are you the right person to speak about that?
I think Anya's got this one.
You can both do it. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think I've been working with a lot of faculty members on this. So what we're doing, that's why, as I said in the presentation, I'm there to bridge the gap between the students and the faculty. And I've worked with tenured faculty too, and I take what they want. Like I take their the ideas that they have, and I try to bring it into this digital scape in whichever way. And this has been done through not just like projects about placing them within their own work, but even about having, for example, a documentary about Detroit. So there are many ways to go about this.
Yeah, and I think I will just add that one of our most senior faculty members, who's a staunch traditionalist, teaches a foundational freehand drawing course, has actually been one of the biggest adopters of some of these methods, because the importance to her teaching method of real-time generation of creative work back and forth between students and faculty using a chalkboard. Usually she has actually jumped in to some of these methods more avidly than others. And then the most recent question that I see is a great one, and I'll take it as a suggestion on whether we, with our partners at School of Education, plan to release findings about the efficacies of these different virtual formats. I think Anya will have more to say about this, but I know from my point of view, this is the kind of stuff that that our colleagues in conferences and professional journals will be very eager to learn about, especially if it can be quantified and documented empirically in the ways that you talked about, Anya.
So we've completed the survey, and now we're following up with focus groups to get a more granular understanding of what these projects and initiatives produced culturally. We're probably about a month away from completing the full study and having a report ready for dissemination. But I'm very excited to be able to collate the outcomes and really assess what this kind of work can produce and what impacts it can have.
That's great, thank you. I want to note that we have focused very intensively in this conversation on changes to teaching and learning, the thing that we're most immersed in. Some of them have touched on, like the student competition work, have touched on larger changes in workplaces and schools and places of learning. And some of my favorite activities this year have included alumni panels that we have done with Jenny and her colleagues, in which we've invited our alumni to share what they're doing in their architecture practices and in other settings to plan for the post-pandemic workplace. And one of them who is with us today is Randy Howder, who's the managing director of the San Francisco office of Gensler, one of the world leading firms in this area. He's a member of the Taubman College Alumni Council as well. And in a webinar earlier this fall, Randy shared some really visionary work that Gensler is doing. You can find it in videos on their website about the future of workplace, in which they imagine all kinds of transformations at home, things as mundane as a home office in a box that would come in the mail, kind of like the care package that we heard about earlier, to things I don't even understand, like digital twin telepresence, where you have a virtual counterpart at the office and while you work from home. Randy and his team at Gensler also have talked about mixed reality adaptive conferencing. I think that's very similar to the stuff we're doing that Ishan emphasized, like that magic carpet presentation. I can't wait to do more of that. And neighborhoods for work teams. So we also are going to be seeing in the work of our students and our alumni and faculty a lot of how these methods and others move out into realms beyond academia. So I see that we're basically at time. We're pushing up against 4 o'clock. I think I'm going to hand this back in a moment to Cynthia Radicke, who kicked us off. In the meantime, thank you all so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be able to share some of this work and hear your responses to it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Anya and Ishan. This was really a spectacular view into what's been happening at Taubman College. Our students continue to do incredible work on the creative front. And I hope all of you who've had a chance to view this presentation will check in with us at Taubman College periodically to see what's happening. The end of semester reviews are coming up, and those will be open for guests to drop in on as well. I also want to thank Anthony Mazzelli for hosting us, and for taking time out of his day, and all of you too, for taking time out of your busy days to join us and learn about what our students have been working on. Please take good care and stay well throughout the upcoming holidays. We look forward to hearing your comments about this session so we can bring you more opportunities to connect in the future. Thank you.